What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to our behavior consultation series that we have going on here. I wanted to take some time today to go ahead and summarize what we've been working on over the last 8 weeks in terms of our in-class experience as well as our professional experience with the use of some of these behavioral change theories, the literature that we've read through, as well as some of the practical applications that we used, such as information from the CDC, information from the NIH, and then with our application in our behavior change video series where we had individual clients. So I have to admit right off the bat, health promotion and behavior change and some of the literature surrounding it is not my strong suit. So this was a steep learning curve for myself, which I'm not usually willing to admit. A lot of times I like to be the smartest guy in the room. I like to be the smartest person in a conversation. And so this took a lot of humbling for me to go in, look at a domain such as nutrition and physical activity and understand I need to bring myself down a peg and look at this through a different perspective, right? One that's not necessarily performance or resistance training based, and one that's more rooted in general population. So for example, it was easy for me to go back and look at some of the nutrition guidelines, some of the physical activity guidelines. Those are all some of the things that I'm very well aware of. But reading through some of Dr. White's recommendations for how to set goals, that was kind of a weak point for me. You know, I never really thought of how practical and easy goal setting should be if you're using that SMART formula. And I use the SMART formula with my students in my PE job, but one of the things I've realized is sometimes I'm helping them not set realistic goals. And I think some of that stems from a little bit of my health behavior and the expectations I have for myself. So that was one of the biggest takeaways that I had from this class, as well as looking through a lot of the literature that Dr. Buns provided us with. Now, one of my favorite studies that we ended up looking at in the initial half of the class, the nutrition portion, was the study looking at building ethics into marketing to influence food choice. There was a study looking at health halos as well as the fair trade. And one of the interesting takeaways that I had from that was, in a day and age, right, in our current stage where overeating, unhealthy eating patterns, or maybe just overconsumption is a problem, that can be a factor when you build ethics into people's nutrition, into people's diets, and into people's minds to make them think that they need to be consuming these products. It might influence them to consume more. There was a lot of interesting information in that chapter that I never really considered when looking at it from a promotional or a marketing standpoint, and that was something that I learned. Something else that I learned was in the latter half of the class when we looked at the mental health section. Mental health, again, is an area that I don't spend a lot of time in, even though I should have some experience there, not only as a teacher, but as a practitioner in strength and conditioning. And then some of my family members also have pretty good careers in psychology. So one of the things I recognized right off the bat was I understand a little bit of psychology, but I haven't taken the time to dive further into mental health practices that would help me consult people. So one of my favorite studies that we read in there was the mass media study looking at how Facebook could influence individuals' emotions. Again, I am a person who takes in social media. I'm a person who partakes in the news on a daily basis, no matter how healthy or unhealthy that can be. And I never really thought to take a step back and think how that could negatively or positively influence my emotions without me even knowing. And again, that was something positive that I learned there. Another takeaway from the mental health section that I had, again, was just setting mental health goals. I was always so intimidated to have those conversations with students, but I never considered some of the basic things that I could help students to set goals for, like just getting a certain amount of sleep per night, or going for a walk, whether that be in nature or walking an animal that soothes you or consoles you, journaling your thoughts. These were all practices that I thought were beneficial, but I never thought that it would affect mental health. And again, trying to be the smartest guy in the room didn't allow me to step back and just realize that a lot of these little things that I believe in could be helping my students and helping myself and my family in a lot of beneficial ways. And then the third section of the class, which was right there smack dab in the middle, had to do with physical activity. Again, this is something that I consider myself to have a fair amount of knowledge on, but once again, I was humbled when I had to step back and not view it through the lens of a strength and conditioning practitioner's eyes, but look at it from the standpoint of health promotion. And one of the big takeaways I got from there was when we looked at a few studies on how you properly promote health. And there was one study that looked at the proper health promotion methods throughout lots of different studies. And I think one of the most important parts of that for me was looking at the major impact that social support has on an individual's physical activity. And that seemed to resonate through each and every section that we talked about in this class. It didn't have to just do with physical activity, but it also seemed to have a profound impact on mental support. We looked at studies in grad students. We looked at studies in health practitioners, right? People who are medical doctors. We looked at just the general population and how social support could be one of those major impacts that seems so small, but could keep you from having to live a life of mental illness that threatens you, rather than one that can cause you to have a positive life, even though you're living with mental illness. So those were some of my major takeaways from this class. I truly appreciated diving further into social cognitive theory. I mentioned this in some discussion posts previously at the beginning, and I mentioned at the beginning of this video too, I never really understood how much the psychological impact had on influencing a person's behavior, as well as the environmental factors. You know, I always thought about it with respect to other fields, but I never truly sat down like I did over the past 8 weeks and thought to myself, what are some of the major external factors that could be causing a person to eat unhealthy, not physically participate, and have poor mental health? What are some of the internal factors that maybe they can't control? What are some of the social factors that they cannot control? So I really appreciated that part of this class for opening my eyes up and making me a little less ignorant in the science behind health promotion and some of the behavior change theories. Now, with respect to my consultation, I thought that went really well. Like I said, I've consulted a lot of students over the course of my career as a physical education teacher. I was previously a science teacher. I did some consultation there, but a lot of it really fell into the domain of physical activity. And so this is the first time I truly had an opportunity to learn about mental health with respect to our field, as well as I have a pretty good background in nutrition, but again, I didn't really have an opportunity to go out and consult on nutrition. And so this gave me a great opportunity to go ahead and do that with my friend, one of my companions, Johnny, and I'm already consulting him on physical activity, and that's been successful. But now I've chosen to extend our talks a little bit and try to keep him accountable, as well as give him social support for some of those nutritional and mental health factors as well. I think he does a fantastic job on those other two. Physical activity seems to be his weakness, which is what we're working on, and he's made so much progress. I couldn't be more proud of him. Maybe I'll try and influence him to build a vault like I have here behind me. This is one of the things that I love the most, strength and conditioning. So I'm hoping to keep pushing him to pursue a lifetime of physical activity through continued consultations after this. Overall, if I had to give it a grade, I think Johnny was successful. He met all three of some of the basic goals that we set, right? He was trying to add a serving of vegetables or fruit twice a day. He was trying to walk the dog for 20 minutes a day. And then he tried to add some comedy podcasts at least once or twice throughout the week. And I can say, because I spoke to Johnny this weekend, that he is still adhering to some of those practices. And believe it or not, his fitness goal has gone a lot further. Him and I recently talked. He's bought a set of kettlebells. He's purchased a membership to a local gym, and his workouts are getting a little more extensive now. They're a little bit longer, and he's starting to appreciate putting some time into physical activity, as well as he's confided in me that his goal is basically to be able to move and play with his kids, and in the future, his kids, so his grandkids, and just to live a long and happy life. So I think we were successful at consulting Johnny, because I took a lot of your guys' comments, positive comments and criticisms, and I tried to implement those as well. I tried to use some of the things that I saw in everybody else's videos, and I appreciate all the help and all the support that you have all given me. Once again, this has been a wonderful learning experience, and I thank you guys for taking the time to watch my last video, and I look forward to seeing all of you in future classes. You guys are amazing, and have a wonderful night.